What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down, what moved it, and what shorts did. Before getting to any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So NIO went down 3.26% today, 614 the low, 649 the high, and 62.1 million shares being traded. But most of that did come from algorithmic trading. So this is kind of my issues with NIO, is that it does get influenced by American data, American algorithmic trading. So it is unfortunate. So I think there is a larger and larger lag that is starting to occur based on the operational updates versus stock performance. So keep in mind, they don't always jive, especially in NIO's case. But aside from that, there was some negative data that did come out from China. So ultimately, we did have new loans coming in pretty much half of what it was anticipated. So that wasn't that great. This evening, we do have industrial production, retail sales, unemployment, and fixed asset investment. So in general, a lot of gray that could really move Chinese stocks. So this has been also more of a common occurrence, is that we haven't really been getting the solid data that people were really wanting. In China's case, though, all of this might come to a benefit near the end of November, possibly early December, where you see some level of stimulus. But today was a absolutely brutal day. No news from NIO, no SEC filings. So the next big catalyst to potentially anticipate and wait for is their earnings. So that is slated for November the 25th. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. But I think generally their future guidance, that's going to be the very big deal for NIO. Closer to that date, I'll go over kind of some levels that you need to be aware of and whatever else. There wasn't really all that much in speculative things. The only thing that really came out was posted by this, so China EV Home, and it just kind of puts it in perspective on kind of the recent progress that NIO has been really hitting. So you can see the monthly sales trends. So it did bottom in August, 10,361, and since then it's been really making some good progress. So like I said, there is a little bit of a gap, wider and wider gap that's starting to occur based on just the operational successes and what they've been achieving versus the stock price. And so let me know your viewpoint on that. And so one thing as well to pay attention to is the PS. So the PS ratio is sitting at 1.41. So Li is sitting at 1, and then Xpeng is sitting at 3.08. So NIO is not the cheapest out there, or I guess the most discounted, but it is definitely there. And it was a nice key pivot, did occur in August. So for the longest time that I remember covering NIO, it's always been by far cheap, even many times below 1. So even in May 2025, NIO's PS was at 0.78. So who knows, maybe we'll get back to there, unfortunately. But nonetheless, from a technical standpoint, Elliott Wave Technicals is projecting for NIO in the short term to hit between that 553 and 591. And this is something I've really mentioned over the last several days, is that NIO has been starting to break down on the technicals. Some people just say don't pay attention to technicals, but if you're wanting to dollar cost average, it is advantageous to kind of pay attention to some key levels. But aside from that, shorts, they did increase 1.02 million shares, 11.28% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 156 million shares overall being shorted. DTC is starting to inch back up, so that's sitting at 1.97 days. Does signal that shorts are relatively overextended. And one thing as well I've kind of brought up on occasion is cost to borrow minimum being negative. Normally when it's negative, it's only like 0.02, but as of right now, it is negative 0.33. So that does mean that there is a broker or several brokers physically paying people to short NIO. So kind of weird stuff to see, but there definitely is a certain level of manipulation that has always really surrounded NIO. And hopefully with their upcoming earnings, they'll be able to really hit home on kind of their path to profitability, or I guess initially would be break even. But ultimately, once they do hit profitability, that should be a natural deterrent for shorts just to kind of leave. Looking at the options, 5.7 million in calls, 2.4 inputs, and then 48% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. Looking at the expected move based on the options, for their earnings, it looks like 10.91% in either direction is anticipated. So that's almost a 68-cent move. So anticipate a lot of volatility, of course. From a bull standpoint, you see a nice recovery on the table. So between 650 and 7 for tomorrow. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub kind of 6 to 650. So we'll have to wait and see based on this, even though most of which the options today were bearish. It looks like there's a little bit of upside. This is the open interest on a side note. So we have around 6,000 at the 650 and 1,000 at that 6. And it is fair to assume $7 and above is kind of off the table. So just watch for 650 potentially for that key pivot tomorrow. But these are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market: 2 buys and 1 sell. So not really that much institutions buying the dip, as I even mentioned at the very beginning. And plus, over the last 3 weeks, most of the volume has been coming from algorithmic trading in general. But these are some of the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. So 1.3 million, and based on the timestamps, it does look like some institutions were kind of loading the boat near the bottom, possibly, again, just based on the timing. But dark pool is very difficult to kind of distinguish what is a buy and what is a sell. Aside from all of that fun stuff, with it closing at 624, it is trading between this S1 and this S2. So 611 is going to be that strong support. Kind of bounced off of that general area for the low. Like I said, 614 was a low. So things could get very real very fast. And the Elliott Wave Technicals is kind of projecting for it to be right above that S3 right here, and then 652 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. Aside from all of that fun stuff on the actual chart, it is below the 50-day moving average, 10-day moving average, so it shows more of a technical breakdown. Looking today, you don't see that much willing buyers, so it looks like a grouping up until around that $6 range. Then you have from, it looks like 570 to 560, and then that's pretty much it. So definitely, I don't think many people are buying the dip for NIO, as well as just a lot of stocks. There seems to be a willingness to just sell everything off, which is rather crazy. And a lot of that has to do with the whole shutdown. So in case you do not know, shutdown in the States did come to an end. That was last night. And because of that and the length of the shutdown, ultimately, we're not going to be getting any labor data. So Powell was going to be really looking at that labor data to justify a rate cut. So it's one of those kind of crappy scenarios. So I think the market right now is pricing out a 25 basis point cut for the upcoming December 10th meeting. But in NIO's case, even though technically what happens in the States shouldn't directly affect NIO, especially let alone interest rates, it always does. So NIO is a frustrating stock, and I think just generally nothing really surprises me because I've been covering NIO for a long time, and it just is one of the most frustrating stocks. When it goes up, when things are good, things are very good. When things go bad, things get very bad. I feel like there's no middle zone. It's either one extreme in either direction. So let me know your thoughts on that, or if you think I'm completely off topic. But nonetheless, there was no new analyst ratings. Last one was done October the 17th. So analysts, I don't think, are really paying attention to NIO. Maybe they're just waiting for their upcoming earnings. So we'll have to wait and see how that does all play out. Let me know your viewpoint. Are you buying the NIO dip? Are you selling? What are you generally doing? And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. I put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.